Hey fly tyers, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying the Pink Squirrel Nymph, also known as the Persuader. This is a fly pattern that was designed by fly angler fly tyer John Bethke out of Westby, Wisconsin, and it was designed for fishing the Driftless Area, which is a wilderness area. You can read more. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find out a little bit more about that area. It's basically southeast Minnesota, Wisconsin, and sort of a hidden gem, one of the lesser known regions of the U.S. The original pattern calls for a coral pink chenille collar, but we're going to be using some diamond dub. If you don't have diamond dub, feel free to sub that with a little bit of ice dub. Make sure you leave a comment below and I'll get you entered into our next draw. Let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, let's get started with a fresh hook. We're going to be using a Fire Stick 315, and this is a clink hammer or a stone or nymph hook. And we're going to put on a, this is a 3.2 millimeter gold tungsten bead, and the hook we're using is a size 12. Now you can see with using the barbless hook, that bead goes on without any trouble whatsoever. We're going to add a little bit extra weight. We're just going to use a few wraps of 0.02 lead, and 5 or 6 wraps is good, and we'll just break that off. We're just going to push those tag ends around just so that they fit neatly. You can use your nail or a pair of scissors just to kind of cinch those up into the hook. And once we got that snugged into the bead, we're going to put some thread on this fly, and I'm going to be using a 6/0 uni pink, and I like the uni pink for this application just because it's not too bright, but if you do have a brighter thread, I don't think it's going to hurt anything too much. If that dubbing gets picked out a little bit, you'll have a nice bit of a color peeking out from underneath. So we just started our thread in behind where the wire, the extra weight stops, and we're going to want to just kind of wind that back and forth and kind of taper the hook into the wire so that's a little bit smoother. And you can just do that simply by going back and forth, and then eventually you'll kind of ramp into the lead wire. We're going to add a tail of pearl crystal flash. So we're going to take a single strand of pearl crystal flash, and what I like to do is just double this over a couple times and snip it in half. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me 4 strands. You don't want to dress this too heavily. I've seen a few different variations where you can use a different color of crystal flash. One that I really liked was actually using a rainbow version of the crystal flash, and that looks pretty sharp. So we've got 4 strands, and we're just gonna kind of eyeball this. I guess you can measure it for consistency, but we're just gonna kind of eyeball that a little bit less than the length of the hook shank. We just tie that a little bit onto the side, and we'll use the thread pressure to kind of lever that over onto the back of the hook shank, and we'll wind that up just in behind the lead. Trim off the excess. And now we're going to add a ribbing of ultra wire, and I'm using the brassy size in red here today. So I'll just take a length of about 5 or 6 inches, and we'll tie that in just in behind the bead, and then we'll take that along the side just following the contour of the hook. We'll take that right down to where we tied in our tail. Now we're going to take our thread back up just in behind where we added our weight, and we're going to start dubbing this. So for dubbing, you can use gray squirrel, which is what the original calls for, hence the name, the pink squirrel. But we're going to be using a little bit of just some standard hairs here. I don't have any squirrel with me. And we'll just start by winding on a dubbing noodle. So as you can see, I just kind of take a few strands of the dubbing and I just pinch it between my thumb and forefinger and just roll it in one direction. And you just want to kind of, as you're doing that, pull a little bit of the material off a little piece that you hold in your hand. And I find this way you get it still stays nice and spiky for what you're looking for, and you don't get too heavy of a dubbing noodle. If you want to make it a little bit thinner, you just kind of adjust how much dubbing you feed in at any time. And this might take a few applications of dubbing, but you're probably better off having a little bit less than adding too much all at once. And I like to just kind of taper this a little bit fatter towards the head of the fly and a bit thinner towards the tail. So we got our dubbing on there. Now we'll pull our wire and we're just going to counter rib this. So the opposite direction we wound our dubbing, we're going to wrap the wire in the opposite direction. And 4 or 5 wraps of the wire should be good, just to kind of give a little bit of segmentation to the fly. Now this doesn't necessarily represent any natural insects, but I guess if you wanted to pin down something, I guess this could be considered a scud of sorts. With the pink hotspot, you might be able to think of that as the egg sac or the parasitic orange spot. So we're going to either helicopter a wire, or in this case we're going to use the back of our scissors to cut that off. We'll just hide that sharp tag end. And then we're going to grab a little bit of diamond dub. So for this one I'm using the diamond dub, I think this is diamond dub 133, which is the hot pink with a little bit of UV added in there. And we don't need a lot, we just need enough just to create a little hot spot here on the fly and give the pink squirrel its pink. So we'll just twist this on the same as we did the rabbit dubbing, and we'll just add a few wraps, and we just want to kind of create a little bit of a thorax or a hot spot on this, and then we'll add a whip finish. And I like to just pull all the fibers back before I do that, just so that I'm not trapping too many under the thread. And I'm going to add a second whip finish to this fly, just for my own added security. Snip off the thread. And last step for this, we're just going to add a touch of glue just to make sure that those thread wraps are secure, and that when we're fishing this fly, it's not going to fall apart on us. Hey fly tiers, thanks for stopping by and checking out my fly tying videos. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, hit the thumbs up and share it to your social networks. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, be sure to hit the bell icon to get notifications on my latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you have a question or comment, leave a message below. You'll also be entered into the next draw for some of the flies I tie and a few stickers. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.